What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of the Creator Reality Series. And today we are going to talk about posting online, why it feels so embarrassing for a lot of people, and why why it matters more than they admit. And not just your first video, not just the very beginning of it, even your 10th video or the 20th video, sometimes even later, when you already been doing it for a while. Because there's something about putting yourself out there that feels more personal than it should be. Even if you're talking to this camera lens, right? You sit there, you record something, you try to say what you actually think, then you upload it, and suddenly your thoughts, your face, your hair, your voice, your energy, they are not just yours anymore. They are visible, they are public, open to being seen or ignored or misunderstood or judged. And that creates a very specific kind of discomfort. Not a loud one, not a dramatic one, but a persistent one. A quiet feeling of exposure. This right here is the Creator Reality Series, a YouTube series where we talk about what it actually feels like to build something on YouTube. Not the polished version, not the motivational version, but the real one. And today we are talking about something almost every creator feels at some point, but doesn't really talk about it openly. Why posting online feels so embarrassing? Because once you understand what that feeling actually is, it becomes much easier to move through it without letting it control you. The first thing to understand is this: it's not just content, it's identity exposure. When you post something online, you are not just uploading a video, you are showing people how you think, what you care about, what you are trying to build, what kind of person you might be becoming. And that's why it feels heavier than it logically should be. A new video is never just a video. It's a signal, like it's saying this matters to me. It says this is how I see things. It says this is the direction I'm moving in. And if that part of you is still forming, still uncertain, still a little fragile, then putting it out there feels intense because now it's not just in your head anymore. Now it's visible for 1 million people out there, and visible things can be judged. But here's where it gets even more specific. A lot of the embarrassment doesn't come from strangers, it comes from people you know, from old classmates, from friends, from family, people who have a fixed image of you, the version of you that existed before this, before you started speaking directly, before you started putting yourself out there, creating a YouTube channel, starting a brand, starting a business, becoming present in the online social media world, right? Because now you are not just posting into the internet, you are risking being seen by people who already think that they know who you are. And that creates tension because this new version of the one trying to build something still feels new to you. It still feels unproven. And part of you doesn't want that version to be seen too early. That's why you hesitate. That's why you overthink. That's why you watch your own videos back and suddenly everything feels wrong. The way you speak, the way you look, the way you phrase things. You notice every small imperfection, every moment where you feel slightly off. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about with all the videos I already made. And it makes you question whether you should even post it at all. But here's something important. That reaction doesn't come from weakness. It comes from awareness. A lot of people who feel this strongly are actually more self-aware than average. They can see the gap between where they are and where they want to be, the gap between their current level and the creators they admire. And that awareness makes everything feel more personal because you are not just posting, you're comparing yourself. You're thinking, this isn't as good as it should be. This isn't as clear as I want it to be. This doesn't represent me properly yet. And that creates embarrassment. But that doesn't mean you are not meant for this. It usually just means you are early. You can see it clearly. You know where you want to get, you know who you want to be, but you are not there yet. And that's a very different interpretation because the real challenge here is not just posting, it's being visible before you feel ready. It is showing up before you feel fully formed. It's letting people see you while you're still figuring things out. And that goes against how most people are used to operate, you know? Most people only want to be seen once they fully feel confident, once they feel good, once they feel like they can control how they become, how they come across. But being a creative flips that. You have to be seen before you feel polished. You have to show up before you feel established. And that creates friction. And that friction gets misunderstood all the time. People feel embarrassed. And then they turn a feeling into a conclusion. They tell themselves, this must mean I'm fake. This must mean I'm trying too hard. This must mean this isn't right for me, right? But that's not necessarily true. Embarrassment doesn't automatically mean misalignment. Sometimes it means your identity hasn't caught up to your actions yet. And that's absolutely normal. That's a very normal phase. If you look at other areas of your life, it's the same pattern. Going to the gym, working out when you're not in the shape yet, you're you're imagining yourself in this dream shape, and you're not there. It feels uncomfortable. It feels even awkward. Speaking when you're not supposed to be, it feels awkward. Trying something new in front of other people feels exposing. But we don't always interpret that as a sign to stop, right? We understand that it's the part of the process. For some reason, with content, people forget that. They expect it to feel natural immediately. And when it doesn't, they think something is wrong. I mean, the best example is trying to learn a new language, right? You will need months or years to learn it, but you do it anyway because you want to learn it. If YouTube, it's not different. Posting goals feel less embarrassing over time, not because you suddenly stop caring what anybody thinks out there. That rarely happens completely. But it gets easier because you get used to it, to posting. The first upload feels a little bit like a big event. Yes, the fifth already feels different, and the 20th feels almost normal because your nervous system adapts. What once felt intense becomes familiar, and that familiarity reduces the emotional weight. And this is so important because a lot of people out there think confidence comes first and then posting. But in reality, it's usually the other way around. You post while it feels uncomfortable. You stay, you repeat, and over time, the discomfort loses its grip. And another thing that helps you to understand this whole thing around here, most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. It feels like everyone is watching you, analyzing you, and judging you. But in reality, most people scroll, watch for a few seconds, and move on with their own life because they have their own life to manage and they have all messy lives out there. Everyone has a messy life. That's how life works. The spotlight you feel on yourself is much stronger than the one that actually exists. And that doesn't mean nobody sees you. It means the pressure is amplified in your head. So don't make it too hard on yourself. What should you do instead with all of this information here right now? First of all things, stop expecting posting to feel normal or natural immediately. For many people, it won't. And that's the fine. That's absolutely fine. The second thing is stop using embarrassment as signal to stop. Instead, ask yourself if it might simply mean you are doing something new and visible at the same time. And the third thing is accept that your early work will feel more embarrassing to you than it does to anyone else. You see every detail others don't. And the fourth thing is keep going. Please keep going long enough for your identity to catch up. Because that's what really happens over time. At first, your action feels ahead of you. You think you are, you post, but you don't fully feel like it. Like this creator you imagine you are. But if you keep going, that starts to shift. The action repeats. The identity adjusts, and eventually it feels more natural. Not perfect, but more normal. So if posting feels embarrassing right now, you are not broken. You are not uniquely awkward, and you're probably not on the wrong path. You're just feeling what it is like to become visible before you feel finished. And one other advice from me, be as awkward as possible, be as unique as possible, because this is the whole process, this is the whole thing you are creating out there. The more you awkward, the easier it gets over time. So let's wrap it up. This is the creator reality. And in the next episode, we are going into something that hits even harder once you start posting consistently. The real problem with comparing yourself to bigger creators. Because embarrassment is one thing, but comparison can pull you in a completely different direction. But for right now, please remember this one thing. Posting online feels embarrassing, not because you are fake, but because you are visible before you are finished. And that's exactly where every real creator starts.